Hi, I'm Rivka. Welcome to OneShul's Torah Together study for Monday night. We are currently experiencing problems with the chat, so we'll keep you updated about that as I go throughout the broadcast, and we'll see if we can't all log on and whatnot. While we're waiting here for a moment for things to start, you should be able to get the JPS version of the Torah portion. If not, we're going to be using the Torah, a modern commentary, Union for Reform Judaism. And I find that this one explains gaps in the translations really well and comes out closer than my art scroll does to the to what we're looking at. But boy, I tell you, if you do have a chance to buy more than one Torah with commentary, this is the stone edition, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's just got beautiful inlay, and the pages are just so well made, and it's full of interesting information and commentary. If you have the money to drop $100 on a book, I was lucky to find one relatively cheap, but still. So what are we going to look at tonight? We're looking at the 9th portion of the Torah cycle. It's Vayeshev. And now we're going to be talking about the line of Jacob. What's also interesting is we're going to hear a lot of different stories. We're going to hear about Jacob, about Joseph, about Reuben, about Tamar, about all sorts of characters, and we're going to hear some main stories and see if you can pick out what these stories are. So it begins at Genesis 37:1. Now Jacob settled in the land of his father, sojourning in the land of Canaan. This is the family history of Jacob. When Joseph was 17 years old, he would tend the flock alongside his brothers. He was an attendant along with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph would bring malicious reports about them to their father. Yet Israel loved Joseph better than his other sons, for he was to him the son of his old age. He therefore made him a coat of many colors. And here's where we get our story of the coat of many colors, but it's really not a main theme in this portion. It's amazing how it's transformed into the tale it has. So Israel loved Joseph better than the other sons, for he was to him the son of his old age. He therefore made him a coat of many colors. When his brothers saw what he was the one their father loved more than any of his brothers. They hated him and could not bear to speak peaceably to him. Joseph dreamt a dream one time, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him and all the more. He said to them, "Do hear this dream that I dreamt. There we were, tying up sheaves of wheat in the field, when my sheaf rose up and stood straight up. Your sheaves then paraded in a circle around mine and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you so certain you will reign over us? Do you really expect to rule us?" So they hated him all the more for his dreams and for his words. He dreamt yet another dream and recounted it to his brothers, saying, "Look now, I have dreamt another dream, and look, The sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me. But when he recounted it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him, saying, What is this dream that you dreamed? Your mother, your brothers, and we really come to bow down to the ground before you? His brothers detested him, but his father kept the matter in mind. So that was a little picture of him recanting. Verse 12. And when his brothers went to tend their father's flocks at Shechem, Israel said to Joseph, Surely your brothers are tending the flocks at Shechem by now. Come, let me send you to them. He answered, Here I am. Israel then said to him, Pray, go see how your brothers are, and how the flock is doing, and bring me back word. So he sent him from the valley of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. There a man happened on him, and he was wandering in the countryside. The man asked him, What are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for my brothers. Can you tell me, please, where they are tending the flocks? The man said, They left this place. Yes, I heard them say, Let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him in the distance, and before he neared them, they wickedly plotted against him to bring about his death. They said to one another, Here comes that master of dreams. Now then, let us kill him and throw him into one of these pits and say, A wild animal devoured him. Then we'll see what becomes of his dreams. But when Reuben heard this, he saved him from their hands by saying, Let us not strike a mortal blow. Reuben said to them, Do not shed blood. Throw them into this pit here in the wilderness, but do not lay a hand against him, in order to deliver him from their hands, to restore him to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his coat, and his coat of many colors that he had on. Notice that we have a repetition, and we're going to hear about it one more time. Verse 24. Then they took him and threw him into the pit. The pit was empty, and there was no more water in it. They had sat down to eat, and when they looked up, they saw a caravan of Ishmaelites traveling from Gilead. Their camels were loaded with laudanum, which laudanum, which apparently is a resinous product used in the manufacture of perfume. So it would have been highly prized. They had balm and mastic, which I couldn't find what was. They were heading down to Egypt. Judah then said to his brothers, How will it profit us if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Let us rather sell him to the Ishmaelites, then our hands will not be on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh. And his brothers heeded him. When the Midianite traders came through, they pulled Joseph up out of the pit. They sold Joseph for 20 pieces of silver to the Ishmaelites, who carried Joseph off to Egypt. Now, here we have an interesting part. They're sending him off. They're selling him. They're trying to get rid of him. But what is it that, is really going on? It's confusing because there's Ishmaelites, Midianites, and later they'll call be Medianites. M-I-D and M-E-D. So it's really confusing. And so Rashi said that in all probability he was sold multiple times before he even reached Egypt, and that's how he got around these disparages between the texts. So verse 29. When Reuben went back to the pit, but Joseph was not there in the pit. He tore his clothes. Going back to his brothers, he said, The boy is not there. Where am I to go? So they slaughtered a goat, took Joseph's coat, and dipped the coat in the blood. They carried the coat of many colors and brought it to their father. They said, We found this. Do you recognize it? Is it your son's coat? He recognized it, saying, My son's coat. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph has been ripped to shreds. Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his loins, and mourned his son many days. His sons and daughters endeavored to console him, but he refused to be consoled, saying, No, in mourning shall I go to my son in Sheol. Thus did his father bewail him. Meanwhile, the Midianites, M-E-D, sold him to Egypt, to Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officers, captain of the guard. Around that time, Judah parted from his brothers, and fell in with an Adullamite named Hirah. Alright, so now what's going to happen? Well, let's look at what we've read in the text so far. We're about to hit the story of Tamar. And we see that the effective impact of Joseph's biography is created by the device which Aristotle called dramatic reversal, which he considered essential to good drama and which is often found in Greek writing. Basically, fate thwarts the will of humans. It turns the effects of their actions to their own purposes rather than to theirs. So Joseph is sold by his brothers so they may rid them of the dreamer. Yet the dreams come true. The slave becomes master, hatred turns to love, and the rejected one saves his brothers' lives. So, this book concludes that, in summation, no one can alter the overriding purposes of the divine power. So we have all these plus and minus things going on, yet still it's one purpose at the end. Interesting idea. I don't know how I feel about it personally. It's a good point to think about. So now we're going to start with the story of Tamar. And this is interrupting Joseph right at the point where we're getting to suspense. What's going to happen to Joseph? This interlude was a literary device often found in antiquity, especially in Greece, and was designed to make the listener, or in this case, the readers, eager to get on with the main story. Here also, interesting to note, is that an additional element is included. Until now, Reuben filled the role that the traditional assigned to the firstborn son. And now we're going to talk about the fourth-born son, Judah. And he's going to emerge as the spokesperson in this saga for his brothers. The episode introduces without explanation, but puts Judah into the center. He will become the ultimate bearer of his people's fate, for from him the Davidic line will be established. So, all of a sudden, we're moving away from the firstborn to the fourthborn. So that's a really interesting note to see. So now we're going to learn about Judah. Verse 2, chapter 38, verse 2. There Judah saw the daughter of Canaanite named Shua. He took her to wife and coupled with her. She became pregnant and bore a son, and he named him E-R. Again she became pregnant and bore a son and named him Onan. Yet again she became pregnant and bore a son and named him Shelah. When she gave birth to him, he, that is Judah, was in Harabaz. Judah now took a wife for his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. But Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of the Eternal, and the Eternal brought about his death. Here we don't learn what his death is, or how it comes about, or what he did wrong, but we see the power that is put into the story of living a morally just life. Verse 8. Judah then said to Onan, Couple with your brother's widow, unite with her, and raise up offspring for your brother. But Onan knew the offspring would not be his, so whenever he coupled with his brother's wife, he would waste his seed on the ground, in order not to produce offspring for his brother. And this is where we get the sin of Onan, and the idea in, I believe the idea in Catholicism about, partially about chastity, for, leaders. Verse 10. What he did was wicked in the sight of the Eternal, who brought about his death as well. Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Stay as a widow in your father's house until my son Shelah grows up." He thought, "Lest he too die like his brothers." So Tamar went and stayed in her father's house. So let's see, we have a lovely picture. Time passed, and Shua's daughter, Judah's wife, died. And after Judah was consoled, he went up to his sheep herders. He and his friend Hirah the Adulamite toward Tamar. When Tamar was told, "Look, your father-in-law is going up towards Timnah to shear his sheep," she discarded her widow's garb, covered herself up with a veil, wrapped herself up, and stationed herself at the entrance to Enaim, Enaim, on the way to Timnah. For she saw that Shelah had grown up, yet she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he took her for a prostitute, for she had covered her face. So he turned toward her on the road and said, "Pray, let me couple with you." He was not aware that she was his daughter-in-law, and she said, "What will you give me to couple with me?" So what does he do? He replies, "I will send you a kid in the form of the flock." But she said, "Only if you give me a pledge until you send it." He asked, "What sort of pledge should I give you?" She then said, "Your signet seal, your cord, and the staff in your hand." So he gave them to her, and coupled with her, and she became pregnant by him. So, interesting story. What deception we're playing again in this week's chapter, just like last week. What is this going to mean in the future for the offspring? What does it mean for other laws, like, for instance, when Onan took Tamar in the first place, as one taking a brother who didn't have offspring and marrying to make offspring for them. So Judah's made a promise and he's not going to fulfill it, and unfortunately the role in which Tamar is in, she has to do something or else remain at her station. So she does the disguise, and in that way is able to get her ends. So what happens? Verse 19. He got up and left. She discarded her veil and put on her widow's garb. But when Judah sent the kid by the way of the Adulamite friend to redeem the deposit from the woman, he did not find her. And when he asked the people of her place, "Where is that courtesan, the one at the crossroads?" they replied, "There wasn't any courtesan here." He then returned to Judah and said, "I did not find her. Moreover, the people of the place said that there had never been a courtesan here." Judah then said, "Let her keep it, lest we become a laughingstock. I did send this kid, though you could not find her." So what does he mean by laughingstock? His relationship with the prostitute would have become a matter of public discussion, and probably would have earned him mockery for having to go to a lady of the night, shall we say. So what happens? Verse 24. Then after about 3 months, Judah was told, "Tamar, your daughter-in-law, has played the whore, and now she has even become pregnant by whoring." And Judah said, "Bring her out and let her be burned." Brought out she was, but she sent to her father-in-law, saying, "The man to whom these belong made me pregnant. Acknowledge those signet seals, cord, and staff." I'm sorry, I lost my place. "And staff these are." Verse 26. Judah recognized them, and he said, She is more in the right than I, for certainly I did not give her to my son Shelah, and he never touched her again. So he bows to the what's considered right, but he's making the consideration seen as that he did have intent to deceive her. So what happens to her? When she was giving birth, lo, she had twins in her belly. And just as she was giving birth, one put a hand out, and the midwife took it, and tied a crimson ripped thread on its hand, saying, This one came out first. But then it pulled the hand back. Look, its brother came out. So she said, What a breach you have breached! And she named him Perez, which, interestingly enough, means breach. Verse 30. Afterward came his brother, on whose hand was the crimson thread, and she named him Zerah. Chapter 39. Now Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, one of Pharaoh's officers, captain of the guard, and an Egyptian man. Now we get to the recap of what was going on, so that we're interested again in the main event of the story. Captain of the guard, an Egyptian man, purchased him from the Ishmaelites who had brought him down there. But the Eternal was with Joseph. He was a man who prospered, now that he was in the household of his Egyptian master. His master saw the Eternal was with him, and the Eternal was prospering whatever he touched. Joseph therefore found favor in his sight, and ministered to him. He gave him authority over his household, and placed all that he owned in his hand. From the time he gave him the authority over his household and all that he owned, the Eternal blessed the house of the Egyptian on account of Joseph. There we go, we've got the repetition of 2 again. The blessing was on all that he owned in the house and in the field. He left all that was in Joseph's hand, and he gave no thought to what he had other than the food he ate. Now Joseph happened to be fair of form and fair of appearance. And after all this, his master's wife set her sights on Joseph and said, Lie with me. But he refused, saying to his master's wife, Look, my master gives no thought to what is in this house. All that he owns he has put in my hands. There is none greater than I in this house. He has withheld nothing from me, other than you, insomuch as you are his wife. How then could I do this great evil and thus sin against God? So we have him being a stand-up gentleman and realizing that you don't dip the quill in the company inkwell, so to speak. It doesn't pay. It never does. Verse 10. And so she sweet-talked Joseph day after day, but he did not heed her plea to lie down by her and be with her. On one such day, when he came into the house to do his work, and not one of the people of the household was there in the house, she took hold of him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. He left his garment in her hand, fled, and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand, and fled outside, she summoned her household servants and spoke to them, saying, See, he brought us a Hebrew man to toy with us. He came to me to lie with me, and I cried out in a loud voice. When he heard me raise my voice and cry out, he left his garment with me and fled, and ran outside. And she kept his garment with her until his master came home. Here we go. We have this theme of deception once again, and how it's going to affect them. Verse 17. She spoke to him in a manner, saying, This Hebrew slave, whom you brought to us to toy with us, came to me. But when I raised my voice and cried out, he left his garment near me and fled and ran outside. When your master heard this, his wife's words, namely, Your slave did these things to me, he was enraged. So Joseph's master took him and gave him over to the prison. Picture time. So Joseph's master took him and gave him over to the prison, the place where the Pharaoh's prisoners are kept, and there he remained in the prison. 21. Yet the Eternal was with Joseph, and extended kindnesses to him, and lent him grace in the prison's warden's sight. The prison warden put all the prisoners of the jail in Joseph's hands, and whatever was done there was his doing. The prison warden never saw anything amiss with him, because the Eternal was with him, and because wherever he did, the Eternal prospered. Chapter 40. After all this, the cupbearer of the king of Egypt and the baker offended against the master, the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was furious at his two offenders, at the chief cupbearer and at the chief baker. So here we have them in the picture, and here's where our plot thickens, right? He placed them under guard in the house of the captain of the guard in the prison, in the very place where Joseph was confined. The captain of the guard assigned Joseph to them. He waited on them, and there were some time under guard. They dreamt a dream, the two of them, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Egypt, who were held in the prison, each one's dream falling on the same night, each one's dream with its own meaning. When Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw that they seemed out of sorts. He asked the Pharaoh's officers, were you with verse 7. He asked Pharaoh's officers who were with him under guard, "Why are you so downtrodden today?" So they said to them, "We each dreamt a dream, but there is no one to interpret it." So Joseph said to them, "Surely interpretations are in God's domain. But go ahead and tell them to me." The chief cupbearer then recounted to his dream to Joseph, saying to him, "In my dream there was a vine in front of me, and on that vine were 3 branches. Barely had it budded when its blossoms flowered, its clusters ripened with grapes. Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and squeezed them into Pharaoh's cup, and put the cup in Pharaoh's palm." Joseph then said to them, "This is its meaning. The 3 branches are the 3 days. In the 3 days' time Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your post. You shall again place Pharaoh's cup in his hand, and you, as you used to when you were his cupbearer. Only call to me, mind you, when it goes well for you, and keep faith with me. Commend me to Pharaoh, and get me out of this place. For I was stolen from the land of the Hebrews, and here, too, I did nothing, and they consigned me to this pit." When the chief baker saw how well he had interpreted it, he said to Joseph, "In my dream, too, look, there were 3 baskets of bread on my head, and in the topmost basket every kind of food for Pharaoh, of baked goods and birds eating them from the basket on my head." Joseph then responded, saying, "This is the meaning. The 3 baskets are 3 days. In 3 days' time Pharaoh will lift your head from your body and hang you on a pole, and birds will eat your flesh from upon you." The 3rd day was Pharaoh's birthday, and he gave a feast for all his officials. He singled out the chief cupbearer and the chief baker among his officials. He restored the chief cupbearer to his office. Again he placed the cup in Pharaoh's palm. Yet again a repetition of the same idea. The chief baker he hanged, as Joseph has interpreted it for them. But the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph. Instead, he forgot him. And here's where we have to stop, because this is the end of the Torah portion, so we don't get the real juicy part. It's just the teaser to the line of Jacob. So, I want to thank you so much for coming, and if you're watching this later, for taking the time out to listen to me. I hope that I made sense, and I hope you'll find something interesting in the idea of dream interpretations, and maybe you can help explain them to me. So here's my email address. If you want to give a comment, talk about something, ask a question, please do. Email me, let me know. I'm here to help you. So this has been a PunkTorah production for OneShul. It's completely free and open to everyone and non-denominational. So if you have time, please donate some time. And if you have a little bit of money, maybe you could help us out with PayPal. You can do that with PunkTorah@gmail.com. We ask that you give a small portion for the classes so that you can help keep them ad-free and free for everyone to use. If you have any questions, anything else you want to add, or something that you can give back to the community, here's Patrick's email, patrick@punktorah.org. contact him. Either one of us are always happy to talk to you. So thank you so much for coming again, and have a good and blessed day.